modern day is losing the ability to understand what time is. Time is not 6 months. Time is years. And I think people have no concept because we only see the overnight successes, which is nuts. No one's heard of exception and not the rule. Like, that should be taken always. Like, always the case of they're the exception, not the rule. They're the exception, not the rule. They're the exception. Like, I feel like I'm an exception, not the rule in so many cases.
Hello and welcome to Your Heart's Content,
a YouTube show where we're going to look at the aspects of content that really matter, the thought processes, the systems,
and the inspiration.
I'm your host, Deepak Gopalakrishnan, aka Chuck,
And I'm Utsav.
in this show, we're going to be speaking to some people who think deeply about the space of content,
Creators, musicians,
folks in the business of content, all in a bid to try and understand this space of content a little better.
and how you could benefit from it.
In this episode, we are going to speak to Alicia Souza. She's an artist, or as she prefers calling herself, a commercial illustrator. Now, you know her work from the internet. If you don't know the name Alicia Souza, you've definitely seen her art. She sells merchandise under her own name on her own website, Alicia Souza. There's calendars, there's planners, there's stickers, there's a whole lot of things that's available out there. And again, she has a very instantly recognizable style, which again you'll see on her Instagram, which is at Alicia Souza. In this wide-ranging and very energetic conversation, we speak about a whole bunch of things. Her journey from doodling in school to being a freelancer to having a brand of her own and a website under her own name.
So I'll tell you what happened. There was I put out this one illustration called How to Tie a Lungi.
We speak about the aspects of content creation, like just putting in the hours, and we speak about some of the non-content aspects of being a full-time creator as well.
There's a lot of things you don't think. The minute you think about it, no one's going to be doing their accounts or going to the gym and stuff. So it's like...
This conversation covers a whole lot of ground, and I'd like to think that Alicia is one of those creators who's cracked it. She's got a style of her own. She puts out stuff on her own website. She sells merchandise on her own. And I hope that this acts as sort of like an inspiration for artists, young designers, and genuinely anyone just creating content and hoping to make it on their own. So there's a wide-ranging and, like I said, extremely energetic conversation with Alicia right after this. Welcome, Alicia. Thank you for doing this with us. See, we are already laughing. This is a great start. So,
You wanted to be the one who was like, no, now we will not laugh. And she's like, it's going to exactly play out the
It is
same
going to
way.
be the same. It's going to be the same.
right. This stays in the edit, by the way. Let's start off with a very serious question, Alicia. It's something I've been wanting to ask you for a very long time. Tell us why Young Times is the greatest magazine in the world.
By the way, it was junior news for me.
Oh,
Not
wow.
Young Times.
OG. Okay. But yeah, I think you'll have to explain to people what Young Times actually
Young
is.
Times and Junior News was the kids magazine that was in the Middle East. I don't know how far it extended, but definitely Abu Dhabi where I was
95,
born.
yeah.
And I'm guessing everywhere around the Middle East. It came every Tuesday, I remember very correctly. It was 2 dirhams. I did not get it often. Oops. I got it very rarely, which is why for me it was more precious. And it had everything from puzzles, which these are the things I loved. I actually don't remember what else was there. I remember the puzzles very clearly and drawing competition. Like you could send your artworks in and there would be like your drawings in them. Mine, I sent one once and it got published and I was so excited. Anyway, those are 2. What else was there?
There were wallpapers, I remember, which was just big posters. Yeah, there were posters.
Of usually like, your
Usual
pop stars,
Bollywood and some wrestling guys would come in once in a while.
Bollywood was there?
Yeah, Bollywood was there. Bollywood was there.
okay.
Hollywood was there. There used to be columns as well. There were regular tech columns
I
as
definitely
well.
did not read the tech stuff.
There were
columns in
Considering how many Malayalis are there in the middle.
Yeah, very no, there was no, there wasn't.
I just thought good to
But
check.
I don't think there were those many. Were Malu movies big then? Like it's now? Like there was a...
There were actually, I remember Hindi album OST reviews.
Surely.
Yeah, they would give like 4 out of 5 for Arzu.
Proper music reviews, like for the full album.
Yeah. For the full album.
kids-
Yeah,
This is news.
Kids, teenage kind
it's
of.
junior news.
Yeah.
But I think we should what like
1 second, random. Do you remember Sly Fox?
Shylock Fox, and of course the
Favorite.
center page was the center of it was really just 6-7 pages of syndicated comics, ranging from Archie
best.
to Drabble.
Oh
to,
my God.
Yeah, I'm bringing back memories, haven't
Yeah,
I? Yeah.
really have.
So the reason I'm asking you all this is, do you think like for me that was as early content, I suppose,
Yeah.
which would be the non-cartoon stuff on TV.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, Young Times influenced a lot of the way I at least thought creatively at that point of time. That along with Mad Magazine is a weird combination, I know,
loved
but
it, yeah.
So, when realized that you were from the Gulf and you were talking about Young Times at some point of time, I'm like, okay, I see where that trajectory ended up. So was my theory right, wrong? Like, would you say Young Times has played an important role in...
I wish this analysis was very accurate. But I think it played a very small role because, like I said, I didn't get it often. It was a treat at the most. So I remember, I tell you which did though. So we had a bunch of I think just first, you can go back. When you go back, you can always draw these tracks of say, this is where I loved it and this is where I loved it. And I always think back to regardless if I was an illustrator or not. So if I was really good at math in school. So if I became, say, a mathematician or a math teacher, I can go back and draw. I always like math.
You can find the story you want to find.
Exactly. So I can come up with these instances where, I remember when I was really young, I used to love drawing and showing my work and knowing it was the nicest, besides my sister, who was really didn't even like it that much. They were not like really big. Everyone just colored. It was not a big deal, right? And then I could, we had one set of encyclopedia. No, sorry, 2 sets. One was the only photographs and written text, heavy.
Yeah.
And there was this other illustrated one. They had pictures and they had drawings and stuff. I remember those ones I referred to a lot. So I used to always go to the pictures. I think that made, because I still recall it. If I think of early childhood images, that would be the book I remember referencing a lot. Because those are the ones I had at my disposal all the time. And the only ones, because we didn't have a library. We didn't have things that we could easily access, which is so weird because that was such a developed country and just no sense of being able to.
But something else that you said I thought was quite interesting, which is it would come once a week and you wouldn't get it every week, I suppose. So it was more like a treat and you treated that very differently. And I remember, so when I grew up in the Gulf and I would come back, and for me the biggest treat coming back to India, weirdly enough, was going to a small bookshop in Cochin where my family is, and going there spending 1,000 rupees buying 20 Archie comics. And those 20 comics would be devoured over the next 2 years because we came every 2 years, and I would know every panel by heart. And and we've had conversations like this before. It was how much you treasure things when it's in some sense a scarcity, and today you're like, all right, forget going deep into one comic or one artist even. There's just so much to consume. Okay, got what I need out of it. So
absolutely.
So yeah,
true.
just wanted
I'll give you a great, since you were saying coming to India, so weird, and no one relates to this because I don't think there are many sticker lovers here in general.
Sticker lovers.
I was an obsessive sticker lover, not normal. If someone, you put on autograph a book, they put stickers. I would intricately check what kind of stickers they use. Should they have used it? It's just I just loved it. And stickers in Abu Dhabi, I could not afford. I don't have a lot of pocket money or anything like that. So when we come to India, which is also every other year, once in 2 years, once in 3 years, I remember there was a Hallmarks and it was affordable. So I'd go every single day for the month and they'd be like, this girl, really needs to, and maybe once in that month they'll change it. And I'd lose my
That is for Christmas.
Yeah, it was nuts. And I'd go and I'll have not that I had lots to spend, but every day I'll use that little money so I could get a pack of stickers. And then so I think that scarcity made me love it even more. Mm-hmm. So now when I see my son just be I want stickers and stick it on the wall, I'm just that is such a shame. but I don't know what there would be. An equivalent, I'm guessing, at this day and age of what a scarcity would be. or they'll just develop.
Or we don't know, maybe we'll figure out over the course of this
Yeah,
conversation.
maybe.
But,
Let me think about
but this is an interesting thing to double click on, as Amit Verma might
Love
say. What was your quality filter for stickers, or was it anything that was adhesive?
Oh no, absolutely not. But if it still has value being just an adhesive image. So it's so ridiculous if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because I still have my pack from years ago when I was a child, and I could see the passion. Okay, so we had to. Is this a lot about stickers? I don't know.
No, that's okay. No. We are happy to change the title itself from Alicia speaks about the creator economy to Alicia's love for stickers. That's completely fine.
But I think it's going to be literally an hour. I can do that. So we used to have all our school notebooks used to be stuck with not brown paper. I believe it used to be here brown paper. We used to do adhesive, like a transparent.
Okay. The film.
Film. And the back of that is the gloss one where you can stick a sticker on and you'll be able to...
Oh, yeah.
So every year when we used to do it, I used to obsessively cut out and make it fit a file. I could use that as a sticker file, which I still have. And I asked my friends to hold it for me. No one does. But even to get the files, that time I should not get these sleeves where I could put it in. So I used to beg my mom to please steal from the office. And she'd get me one every few weeks. And these, I think this is what develops also that I just need it, you can't just get it. So I should use those stickers. I mean, if I get a pack and two look alike, then one goes in there, the other one I can use for, say, an autographed book so I don't look so stingy also. So it's just, but yes, there's quality. There's which is still the case now, but now it's just so easily available that you don't have that much, and especially I deal with it, so I know the manufacturing thing. So
I'm very tempted to say, haha, now you make your own stickers, so look at
I don't use my stickers. I don't have love for my stickers. I need to see the other ones, and there are so many qualities, right? You'll get
what are the qualities? Okay.
So the ultimate would be, say, a holographic sticker where it changes and the dimension and stuff. But that is unusable in a normal circumstance, I guess. Then you have different type of sheets, which you get now. Before, you should not get as much, where it's more foily. Then you'll get ones with embellishments, if you have your, I don't know, you get
glitter or dots or whatever.
All those things foil printing,
sure,
stuff like that. Then it's the type of paper. Some are glossy, some are matte, because some matte ones are beautiful. Then it's the cutting. So some have a round cut, a regular general cut, which is what we also use. But some have an exact cut, which only is more of a recent thing. It was not there before as much. And it will cut, so there's no outline.
Oh, there's no outline, that white outline.
So for me, even thinking of how they did it technically, for manufacture, I'm they're so good. They got it so exact. I cannot use these ones. Even now, I'm and God no, my son can't touch them.
I have a question before this, right? So I till this point of this conversation, I've only known you through Instagram stories. Okay, how much space do you have in your house? The amount of stuff she has in stickers alone.
No, it's just a box.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And
I've seen so much stuff on the stories.
What? No, and also samples and stuff. Immediately have to go out the house. I don't also too much stuff.
Oh, okay. They go out of the house.
Oh, I don't have any of my work in my house. No samples. If I need something, I will call for it. Because there's no way. Because I used to do that. I used to keep one. And then you have a child and realize this child comes with a whole kindergarten of stuff. It's nuts. It doesn't make sense that... I mean, we had only these many toys growing up. And this child's got a house. That doesn't make any sense. And it's not even... I didn't buy anything. Everything is handed down. And just to be handed down so much is... sometimes I don't give it to him. I keep it for a bit longer if they're it just blows my mind how, he definitely knows he's very privileged also, but I will make sure he knows more.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know how we landed up over here.
Yeah, but, I know. Wow.
But we started with young times. I genuinely just thought you were going to say I submitted a drawing competition. I submitted a drawing competition, and then I figured out I had skills, and then went on to do other things.
I did warn you about the stickers. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, but fair. But let's actually talk about that, which is the bulk of what we want to talk to you about. So, tell us about the entire journey. When did you realize that? From the time you put pen to paper and people reacted, I'm assuming that you knew that you could draw well. But when did you realize that this could be something that you could do professionally? And importantly, how did you manage to convince the entire ecosystem of Alicia, life stakeholders around you to be convinced that this is something that, I can actually do and make money with?
So, being an Awabi, you don't know any artist. I don't know if you knew anyone. I didn't know anyone in the field. Did not know any.
Just other kids who could do drawing.
Drawing is fine, but I'm saying as an adult, like as a career. I'm forgetting the drawing part as a kid.
Sure.
Everyone draws. This is, and this is what I say all the time. Everyone draws as a kid. At one point, they slowly drop it. They stop drawing. They drop their pencils. You're not even like, it's not a requirement to bring your color pencils to school. And I was the only one who still continued. That's the only difference. I was not better. I was not good. I was the only one who continued. In fact, even by the end, I was the only one who drew. I mean, there were a few others, but they were wildly better than me. So to the point where when I was going to study graphic design, I thought, not that they were making a mistake, but that honestly, I felt like the world was losing out. Because they're not taking it ahead. And it's nuts. I mean, but that's also where I feel like you really don't need to kind of be, it's all about what you put in. You might be born with like, some sort of talent, but the rest is like 99% work. Anyway, coming back to, I was a normal drawer. I really loved it. And at the end, when I had to pick like a field, I did math. And I remember when I was thinking about what direction to go after, I actually thought of accounting also at one point. There were lots of things where I thought I'd become a veterinarian, which makes sense, but I couldn't deal with blood. I still cannot, which is very good decision not to. And then my art teacher told me basically that you should take art. You really love it and stuff. Who do I ask? Like, there's no one to ask. There's no artist around. There's no like illustrator around or anything. And I remember the only big thing here is that my parents never forced us to do anything particular. If I said I wanted to be a rocket scientist, it'll be fine. If I said I wanted to be a gardener, they might not. If I said I wanted to study plants, they'd be fine. Like literally anything, which is nuts because I feel like I would be nervous as a parent, but they were so good. And I always say it's because I think my dad really didn't like his job. Neither my mom didn't particularly like his job. My dad really didn't like it.
Considering she was stealing pointers for you, I mean, how much more can she like her job?
She you know what? I mean, now that I think back, I'm like, how annoying a child would I have been? Every day I'm like, did you get something? Did you get something?
Got the chocolate, not the chocolate, the file. I just want the sleeve.
Very specific sleeve.
Yeah.
But so I think that's why my dad was always like, do something that you really like doing. And I remember when I made my decision that I met one guy who was a graphic designer, and he came and he was trying to explain it ultimately, and he came from India and he came from Bangalore, which is why he's the one who anyway, I'll get to that in a second. But when he told me that and I considered it, I remember telling family friends, like when my dad was telling like, okay, she's going to go study design, everyone's like, why? Because I was a good student. So it was
good
almost
students
like,
aren't supposed to.
I mean, I was a good student. I was
take arts.
Average good student. Like, I was decent.
Average good student.
The
there's
only
a
word I
hierarchy.
use is like decent. I was a decent student. I was a relatively decent student. So I remember very clearly because it was a family friend I loved. And he's like, why would you do that? And I was just like, oh man, I already have only this much self-esteem at this point, or confidence rather. And anything more is the thing. So if my parents honestly at that time said, you should do something else, I would be like, I'm happy. I'm happy to.
You would have been on a fintech podcast.
I would have been a completely different thing. Also, it made more sense logically because I had no trajectory of what something. That time there was only Ask Jeeves and Yahoo, but I used to use Ask Jeeves. I remember reading all these things about advertising, and I was the kid who drew logos from everything, like your name 1,000 times in different logos. So I studied in Melbourne, did communication design, and at the end of it, I was. I got I didn't go for my graduation. Okay, I got a mail saying the newspaper editor wants you to do an illustration, and I got an award for Illustrator of the year. I was like, oh my god, this means I'm it. Like this is. I didn't think I was amazing, but I just mean this is like a reason I should be doing it. Like I mean, there is some recognition that means I'm not like entirely miserable. I was never overconfident ever. So. Then I went and did the project, and then realized very quickly that there are no full-time jobs as an illustrator. And so I remember the editor of the newspaper said you should get into politics. The one thing I'm not into is politics. And she's like, then you can get into political design and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So
wow, that is a leap, like from illustration to
politics.
like,
I was
I'd be the
he was campaigning for votes. Okay, sure.
I mean, having taken, never mind. Let's not get there. There are a few parts to edit out.
Anything similar between illustration and politics.
But anyway, yeah. What is political design, by the way?
Not political design, political like cartoons and stuff.
Oh, political cartoons. All right, got it. So,
yeah,
okay, all right.
Anything based on that.
Okay,
and I really don't touch it. I don't touch it at all. Till now, I don't. And it's not in my area of interest.
Sure.
So, yeah, and then I realized that I used to only do it part-time. And so whenever a job came up, I used to work with another illustrator. I used to help him, and I also had another job. I forgot what the question was. Now I'm just telling my whole journey at this point.
I mean, that was a question.
That was okay. Okay.
That's a promo reel right there.
Okay, so I moved to India to co-found Chumbak. And that was amazing because honestly, I could see like the big hole, the co-founders could see the big hole. The designs were received extremely well. So for a year and a half, I was literally at my desk just creating like everything.
And I mean, I'm guessing the first time many people actually came across your work, including me. Like I remember seeing it at a Chumbak store, which itself was...
That time there was no store. That time it was just online. Online store. But it was really good because at that point for me it was just great that I could draw the whole day.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I love product. I mean, besides stickers, I've always loved merchandise and like products and gifts, those stuff, which is such a weird thing, but I've always loved it. Anyway, so a year and a half later we split ways, and that's when I started freelancing as an illustrator. Now that was the hardest, and I always talk about my journey as an illustrator from there because that was the most difficult time because it was firstly thrown into a deep end. I was not sure what the hell to do. I didn't have a plan. Secondly, I didn't know anyone in Bangalore. I knew like 5 people because I came from Melbourne. I have family in Goa, but not like my parents were still in Abu Dhabi. And here's another thing I would give my parents like so much credit is that they never, even though I could feel that they were really sad that we split ways, and the reason I left Australia, the West, to come to India, and they were firstly horrified that I came back in the first place because, I mean, of course, scary, right? Sure. Like you went and you spent your entire life abroad, and then suddenly you're coming back to a place you have no idea about. It just sounds, it sounds like you're not making a good plan, like you're not making a good decision. But even after that, they never said you did it wrong, and they never blamed. They were gentle in trying to persuade me to come to Abu Dhabi, to come back to like a place where little far,
again, the West.
Yeah, yeah. But they never ever said anything, which is like unbelievable because I told you so. It just it blows my mind because
that's
I hope I'm
actually.
I wish I'm that kind of parent, like with my child when he does something like strange. But I hope it works out there.
Hiding stickers is a good start.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, then what happened? Oh, so then I started.
When was this, by the way?
This was 2010. I moved here. 2012 odd is when I started freelancing. Yeah, approximately. And then I started freelancing, and then it was literally, that was when I had to start making decisions. By the way, till then I was like kind of shy, not really talk. I didn't like talking to, like, I still be like, do I have to meet someone? That kind of thing. I'm like, God, no, I'm going to talk about money to people and stuff like that. And that's when everything had to be like torn apart. And I'm like, if I have to stay here. And the reason I stayed here was also because by then I had a dog. And I had like a bit, I mean, the dog is the main one, but also like I had a bit of I don't know, there was no time to contemplate it too much. Like, you're just like, I have to survive now. And by then I'm like, obviously supporting myself for ages. So I can't be like, hello, can I have some money? It was not a great situation. But after that, you just start doing all the things that you don't want to do just because you need to sail ship.
Wow, that is so well said. Like, you sped by that, but that is such a profound line for anyone who is looking to become a freelancer, which is all the shit that you don't want to do, you're suddenly forced to do. But
and it's the best thing you can do.
But
everything is hindsight, right? That time if someone said, oh my God,
you're going through such a great experience.
This is going to build character.
A good example is starting Facebook. So I was so shy to put myself out there with my name that even started my Facebook page, which is not, that time there was no Instagram.
Sure,
it was just Facebook. Just doing that, I was trying to get a friend to do it for me.
Wow. Okay.
Everyone's like, no. So, which is good. Because I ultimately started, and that's where I started building everything. Like, it was my portfolio of stuff. Because I didn't have a portfolio by then. So it was honestly like everything from your accounts, and you get nicely whacked a few times before you build a pretty hard skin, and then everything else becomes easier. But I think the good thing was that I didn't have a fallback, because if you have someone who can, put dinner on the table for you, it becomes just a little easier to I don't think it's everyone, but like I feel like that was good for me. I feel like I need
I think the fire dims a little bit. The fire to get through, to prove yourself / succeed, whatever your definition of it is, goes down a little if you have a little bit of a comfort zone in that space.
Yeah. I'm thinking that's it. There was no question about what else to do. You just have to kind of do it. So you have to go for those meetings, and you have to make like those awkward. Like I remember then I had to do things like go all the way to like these offices. And talk. I'm like, why am I even here? You can technically just send a brief, but that time you had to make those acquaintances and like say hi.
I like how you said these offices, like it's an exotic location. Like,
they literally are. I mean, if I'm
offices,
in Yambur or Belandur and go to Malleshwaram, it is literally exotic location. It is. And I remember that happened.
Shade thrown at.
Also things like, at that time, small things, right? Like I had to learn to drive these extremely long distances because that time there was no Uber. I couldn't afford, so you had to go drive it. And then you just have to learn to drive really quickly, really well. Because you have to drive long distances. And certainly that also is no question. You don't think and you just do it.
So what were the kind of projects that you were doing? Because here you were doing and I'm assuming a lot. So before we get into the freelance journey, how were creative decisions at Chumbak taken? Like your job, was it just, hey, here's a new sofa, draw
that
on
time
this?
There was no sofas. It was mostly just, we started off as a souvenir company.
Yeah.
So it was mostly magnets and stationery, which is my favorite. And then we did, I think, boxer shorts and some t-shirts and stuff like that.
Nice.
It was the product stuff was still a manufacturing thing, right? Like some things you can do, some things you can't.
Okay.
That's the case till now. Like
fair. So what were the kind of freelance jobs that you picked up after? Yeah.
So after Chumbak, it was initially I remember the first job I got instantly was a book project.
Nice.
And it was very sweet. The book is not my best work when I look back, but then
we all cringe at ideal stuff.
Oh my goodness, it was so cringy. Oh my goodness, I can't even say the name. But they were such a joy to work with, and it literally gave me peanuts. Like it was very little money. But of course, you take what you get. You can't even risk overcharging in case they say we can't afford it. Buy. I just took what I remember that, and then the second one was a friend's wife. My ex-boyfriend's friend's wife or something like that. And she wanted a book. So she wanted to get some drawings done. And I had done it. Again, that also is cringy because I just came across it recently. And I'm like, oh, shut up. But things you learn about is I do not know an Illustrator. Then how do I cost? Literally throwing numbers in the air. And I remember very clearly. So in Melbourne, we used to charge by the hour. So I had an understanding of how much you charge by hour. It's absolutely irrelevant here. Because I remember I said it and they started laughing. And I was trying to be like, just like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I don't know any other way than you do by project. Then you realize you didn't add your GST. All those things suddenly you come up with. Then what becomes worth your while? How many projects do you need to even, eat more than tomato for dinner? Like, those kind of things. Like, and then it suddenly grew, and I realized for me what was very important, and this is why I give social media such a big credit, is because I have the drawing style that's very quick, but so it's very quick, so I can put out things very easily, but it's not worthy to go on a portfolio. So I put these drawings out ever so often. That time it was not so daily. I think it was every other day, but very, very few. So if I'm not working on a project, which was then barely, I was drawing for social media. Like when I say drawing for social media, I'm just drawing something that I can put out just to show that I can do this in the style, or I can do a mock, or I can do something. And this is the part where I keep telling, and it seems like it's so easy. So whenever students come and ask me what do I do, I'm like, you've been not even starting out for a year. You have to do this so often for so long. And it's the same with when I hear about writers, it's the same. No one wants to sit to have these ideas.
Yeah.
But the hard part is the writing.
Putting in the work.
Putting in the work and the hours. And it's not like 200 hours, like 2,000 hours, I feel, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and then from there it just grew. And I remember very clearly that I was only struggling. And I remember just knowing the one time when I thought, I'm like, oh my God, I've got projects lined up. And I remember that when I'm like, I feel like this is a little bit of a relief. But it never is relief, because forever when you're a freelancer, you're like, will a project ever come? Like you're always scared someday it's going to just die. But the good part is now we're at an age where we can, buffer it with some other type of business, whether you're teaching or whether you're making merchandise or whether you want to, do a workshop, whatever it is, you can and you have to do multiple sources of income. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you and I don't think you've finished the journey as such, but I think we'll stitch it together at the end. This recognizable style that you have, and when did you realize that you were being known for this particular style?
Good question. Okay, so I'll tell you from uni, I did not have a style per se. In fact, I liked changing it up ever so often. And especially it's dependent on the type of products that time I could experiment. So I remember using a dip pen for ages and then collage, and I loved it, and I never thought I would go away from it. And then as soon as I started working a lot, and that was when I started putting out products with Chumbak, so much work that I had to do the quickest way.
You were forced to do it.
Yeah, so what is the quickest way I can do it? And I used to do it with this broken pen, a cartridge pen. It was from Abu Dhabi, 10 dirhams. Amazing. Quickest way. On paper, it literally was, what is the quickest way I can get these drawings out? And from there, I tried changing it a few times, and then the acceptance wasn't as good. So I realized that clients come to me for this style. So I can't change. And now I find it hard to even deviate. And that's the weird thing. Now I don't know. I tried changing it. I cannot. I just cannot. It is bizarre. And it's maybe a bit of muscle memory, but I used to change the eyes a lot, I remember, with characters before.
And so you've realized this. So when did you say, okay, let's lean in on this? Very clearly, freelancing or, your own merchandise line, etc. is a large part of it is because of this recognizable style almost. So what is it? Talk us through the decision process of, all right, this is clearly the USP. Let's lean into this.
There was no thought process behind it. For example, so once I started drawing that style, after I just started drawing, and it happened to be that style. And honestly, if you look back at the work I did then with Chumbak, and also just when I started freelancing to now, it's vastly different. To the way I color, the type of colors I use, to the products, tools I use as well. And that makes a markedly different difference in at least visually how it looks. So it's not like, I'm going to put out only stuff. But now if I look back and I say, we did that greeting card that time, it looks weird compared to my thing. Sure. So it's not like a thought process. Yeah.
That being said, I would love to see a very graphic novel illustrated by you. It'll be such a cool deviation in style.
Really wanted to do one.
When Miley Cyrus puts out a metal album, it's kind of like that. So that sort of vibe shift will happen, and that will have its own audience, I feel. All right, so when I think the concluding part of that journey then becomes, when did you start putting out stuff in your own name rather than just freelancing? When did you, to me it's fascinating, right? I know the journey at large, but when you were talking about the awkwardness and shyness at the beginning, it must have been such a leap to then say aliciasouza.com and I'm putting out stuff on.
So awkward.
Yeah,
okay, so I'll tell you what happened. There was, I put out this one illustration called How to Tie a Lungi. Okay,
okay.
This is I remember the key moment.
Which?
I've seen that one actually.
2017
16, 17
or something very,
Sure.
And the reason I remember how I got the idea also, because I went to Kochi for a meeting and I saw this guy do that thing and put his lungi, and it was like, I wonder how they do it. And I remember there was one video on YouTube showed how to do it. Anyway, so what was the question? I forgot.
How did you put out stuff in your own name, your own name, basically?
So after that, when that illustration went viral on Facebook.
On Facebook, okay.
So, and then they're like, can I get this on some product? And I'm like, oh, how sweet, but never thought of anything beyond that. And my friend at the time, boyfriend at the time, was like, you should have got it out on a product. And I'm like, no. So like, I cannot.
And
But
all your
then-
products at this point of time, quote unquote products, were all client products, right? You weren't
Not projects.
Oh,
They were
projects.
not
on a project. All right,
yeah.
got it.
Yeah,
All
they
right,
were
okay.
only, projects
Okay.
mostly.
But you weren't selling anything under your own name.
No, absolutely not. No,
If,
I didn't
if
have
somebody
any-
had Alicia Souza merchandise because they
not-
bought it via
There was no
like
merchandise.
Chumbak
I
or
didn't,
whatever.
Yeah, I
or
mean, technically that's not mine, right?
I mean,
It's a
Times of
brand.
India masthead like this.
Later.
Yeah, I'm just
so
saying.
much,
I'm just saying.
So yeah, no, there was nothing.
But it's not-
There was
yeah.
nothing. So what happened was there was a flea market, Sunday Soul Sunday.
Oh.
And we had put out products there. We said, let's just do it to put out a few products, and was received really well. And then we did nothing. So there was nothing happening. And then a lot of people started asking, can I get a mug again? Can I get that thing again? I want to buy another thing. And by then, when we had the products at the Sunday,
Who's we? Sorry.
me
because
and my ex-boyfriend.
All right,
Okay.
fair enough.
So because I took his help for sure. Like he definitely was.
No,
key
because
integral
the
part of-
whole thing went from I to we. So I didn't know if there was a team involved at that point of time.
No.
Fair.
He definitely was the one who got like just even going to a print shop,
okay.
being able to
The
talk.
ops. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing. So I give him a lot of credit for that. But so we put out stuff, and then I put my name on it because I couldn't think of a name fast enough for the Sunday.
Right.
By the time someone asked again, can I have another? Which is weird me saying it because now when someone says Alicia Souza, I don't think of me because I'm just Ali.
Oh.
so it's like, do I have an Alicia Souza cup mug? I'm like, now I can't change the name. So then the next Sunday comes and you have to put more, and that's how the whole thing starts.
Wow.
Basically, the gist of how the product line starts, and I did have an online store. Then I got an idea and put out a calendar, and that's really when we set the online store up, and it did extremely well. But it's a full different ballgame, right? Running an online store, but I was still doing freelancing because I can't depend on thing, and I was never gonna change that.
Yeah.
I actually contrary to many people who think, I love it. I love the boundaries of a brief, and I love people having this vague idea and I being able to execute it. I love it. It's just the most, I don't know. And I also think it's not like it used to be where they're like, the client will be like, I mean, sometimes they'll be like, I wanted to pop and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, they kind of give you a lot of freedom. I feel like people nowadays do. And also there might be a thing where it comes now with a level of trust and they've seen that kind of work before.
Yeah.
So when a client comes to you now, they already know the kind of work they're going to get. And so it's not like, they want a certain type of color, but they've come to you and you use pastel color. So, and then from there, I was close to closing my online store because I was getting too much. And by then I was like running it from under my bed, literally. And I'm not talking about it online because I'm like, I don't want a courier guy coming. I have to wrap up this mug.
Yeah.
And so it was becoming too much. And the weird instant, and this also was like a weird set of things. I met my partner, who is still my partner till today, Saurabh. And he runs the online store. So initially it was a thing like, he's like, I'll run your online store. I'm like, I'm going to close the online store. And he actually said, come, let's go to a factory. And I said, let's go. And I took a bus, went to a factory. It was amazing. And that's why I see that he was serious, I was serious. And we started it, we thought we'd keep it open till Feb, and it's open till today. So that's like years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
yeah, so it was good. But of course, like, it sounds all hunky-dory, but of course there are many things that come along the way. It's not like it's open and now we are millionaires and it can support everything. No, but there's so many more caveats. Like, you're doing your products, but there's still it's still a seasonal business, which is strange. Like, it's very seasonal because it's a gifting product. Right. And most of the products I do are gifting. So towards the end of the year, so the beginning of the year, what do you do? Do you consider corporate gifting? So that's another ball game. How many people do you get for that? Then we started manufacturing because now we have manufacturing capabilities for other artists. Then you're like, okay, do we start looking at export or not? So many other things which look on the surface very clean, but it's not. It's like
But they're actually individual businesses in their own right,
They
which
are.
needs individual marketing, customers, everything.
Absolutely. So one of the things was between Saurabh and I was that we used to have this conversation about we should not talk about like conversation about and this is the very different thing about how the business runs. And I think it also shows why I was very keen on the business not growing.
Okay.
I don't want it to be everywhere. I don't want it to be
Sure.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be like crazy. I just didn't want it to be, I don't know.
Omnipresent?
Yeah, I guess.
You didn't want your stickers everywhere.
Yeah, and I just didn't want, I wanted it to be, I don't know, boutique store type.
Sure.
And one of the things, so we should always talk about what do you want, and I forgot why I was talking about this.
Talking about a partnership with Saurabh.
Yeah, and I also was very clear that I'm not handling logistics. 100% I am not doing that. I'm not going to follow up about where this order is. So till today, that is the rule. Though, of course, I am involved in like, I'll get a mail and then I'll try to figure out like personally about like certain orders or like why is there a hiccup in this, and I'll go through some things. This is a bad and a good, to be honest, because I feel like it would be streamlined if I could do it. But at this point, if I want to freelance still, which I still do heavily, and also run the business even with just like an extension, that's the only way to do it, is that you delegate and you say, you know what, you just handle logistics.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems to me that from the beginning, you've been very clear about the fact that I am just going to draw, and I suppose also conceptualize.
Yeah.
And everything else I am going to outsource. And I think that's good advice for freelancers in general. I think
it's I can make that decision now. I couldn't do that before because like in the beginning I said I'm not going to do, but of course I did a few logos in the middle because I had to bring in the money. But I made sure I never told people about it because I don't want to be known. Actually, that was a great advice I got, which is put out work that you want to be known for. So, and that also came with folio reviews before. I remember everyone, and I also would be like, I'll put photos in there so they can see that I have a good eye. For what? You're not going to be photographing for the brand. Like, it's ridiculous. So, that really helps. But having said that, I wish I could draw all the time. I don't. I do a lot of like mails, editing, like, yes, conceptualizing, that's fun. But the accounts, all these things are part of it. Accounts is like personal.
Yeah, I guess there's no running away from the work that you don't want to do.
Yeah, you have to accept that it's part of it. I mean, and you can delegate it, but the more you do that, I think a part of it just becomes a bit vague.
Vague, abstract, yeah. No, that's fascinating. Thanks. Like, I knew some parts of this journey, but I mean, you just tied it together so nicely. I'd like to think that there are two parts to the I'm going to say creative brand Alicia, right? So one is, of course, a distinctive style that you've spoken about. The other, I want to say, is, for lack of a better word, vibe. Right? There's a certain sunniness associated with your work, your persona, the stuff that you put out on social. I would like to think it's an extension of who you are as a person. And from the few times that we have spoken, you definitely seem like I told my wife that meeting Alicia was like speaking to, like having an interview with a walking emoji, which the good ones, the happy ones.
I'm just going to fire.
No, but jokes apart, like, is this something that was cultivated, or is this something that... And it's a strange question.
No, it's not at all, because let's start with the fact that I think also generally I'm on the happier side. I mean, this is just genetic, luck of the draw, whatever it may be. So generally a happy person. I draw when I'm happy. So if I'm generally happy, most of my drawings tend to be happy.
So you do accounts when you're feeling down?
I literally do it in the beginning of the month, and I have to put my head down and do it. It is the worst. And you just do it and don't think. A lot of things you don't think. The minute you think about it, no one's going to be doing their accounts or going to the gym and stuff. So it's like, it's just like...
But draw when you're happy. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I feel like it does just come together. And I don't think it works if it was the other way around also, because I get a lot of people saying, why are you only drawing happy things? Like, so I get a bit of, not shit for that, but like,
yeah, but sure, I can imagine.
Why aren't you drawing? But I'm like, the thing is that I just don't. Firstly, just imagine I'm upset. I firstly don't want to draw. I don't feel like it's not my response mechanism or anything. And and generally I don't. I get maybe angry, not sad as much. But
you have other kind of outlets.
Absolutely, like
that.
food. Just like
We'll speak about your love for chips.
All chips, thank you.
oh my
for
god,
chips. Love for
it is
chips
an
also.
actual problem. I actually Google this stuff sometimes. I'm like, am I
Yeah,
actually
I mean,
I
we
have a
started young times.
question because you spoke about Saurabh, right? You did
Yeah.
a lovely little comic about Saurabh, I think, on one of his stories. I remember very long ago,
Okay.
right? And you spoke about how different he is from you as a person.
Oh my god, Miles.
Like he's the most, simple, straight,
Yeah, that's what he is.
composed
Yep, that's
person, and you are clearly, from what I have seen in this, a very different person,
Yeah.
right? Emoji person, yeah. So, and you clearly have a successful partnership which has been running for
Yeah,
this long.
yeah.
How does that work as a creator when you see someone? Sure, I mean, there are aspects of running an online store which require a certain kind of a person to be very execution focused, very focused. But how does it then work with your personality as a person, where you have sometimes very different approaches to the same problem?
That's a very good question. Okay, two things. One is trust, one is compromise. Like any other relationship. I don't want to sound like an old woman, which I am, but it is literally that. I have to trust that he's going to do not the best, but the best that he knows is
The right
like
thing,
the
let's
best.
put it this
Yeah,
way.
absolutely. He has best intentions. Very important. So ethically sound also. And the second is compromise. There's some things where I want to do it differently. But if I do that, then I'm going to be, then I have to do it. And that's the compromise I have to make, that he is doing it. That means he's going to do it his way. That's it. And there are compromises like that on product. There are compromises on process, compromise on people, compromise on time. Like all these things are compromises. And it genuinely works with, I think, anything in life. Like, I mean, you have my husband is like crazily different to me. And it's the same thing. I just have to compromise that he doesn't do the bed and he keeps his socks out. And, it's like,
Wow.
it's just, but
We'll speak to you later to see if you want that in the edit. But
yeah, I'll cut that part out to send to him every day. but no, it's just is, right? Like you have to be realistic about this whole thing. I think also now, fortunately, we have social media which shows us a lot of things and teaches us like a million things. But we also have social media which just only puts out like the bright side of like having a partner and like a office, and we are never upset about something, but like so many times we're upset about it. But I think just that communication, literally like a relationship, literally you have to know that it's not going to be hunky-dory. You're going to have differences, but you just have to have a line of communication that is super open, and trust that each person is doing everything for each other's benefit. That's it.
fascinating.
Something for us to also think about.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people start off that way, but I think you have to have this recurring conversation that you all are continuing in that way, and that's it. Yeah.
I think that's we didn't expect relationship advice when we had you on, but hey, that's how this world takes us. So one thing I've kind of realized over time, especially for say young creators when they're starting off, is very often what they perceive might be a fault or a limitation might actually end up being a strength, because it's just a different point of view or whatever. Like for me, my personal favorite example is Randall Munro of XKCD, and he famously couldn't draw, but he turned that into an entire style of his own, and it just works so well, right?
By the way.
Yeah. So like any thoughts on that? I know you'll agree with it, but if you can add any nuance to that, which is your limitation, like what you feel like. I've had people who come and said, hey, I have a very thick accent. Do you think that's going to be a limitation in the world of podcasting? And it's an interesting question. My instinct is to say no, and all that. But is it like, okay, that's such an interesting question to get. Yeah.
That's a nice question also, by the way. Okay, so funny that you said XACD, because I use it as the perfect example when someone says I cannot draw straight lines or a straight line, and I'm like, firstly, most people cannot draw a straight line, and
or a full circle, right?
Yeah,
Full circle is so hard.
I know. I don't think you're meant to anyway, and I think the niceness of it is that line is not, the circle is not straight, so that differs you from someone like a computer. So I think that's the nice part of it. I don't think it's about how you communicate as opposed to what you're communicating. So if you're using stick figures, but you're talking like giving this like the content bit, so the meat is the text, is so good, it covers over the portion that is that's got like stick figures. And same with the podcast. So if this guy's got like a heavy, thick accent, as long as you can understand, the rest is the meat. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
If it's just going to be general stuff, then it doesn't matter whether you got like a stunning British accent or whatever. You have like a whatever accent.
Yeah.
You know,
And why I particularly like XKCDs as an example is turn the negative into a positive to such a degree that it's almost like the lack of facial expressions is its own kind of art,
yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. You can, yeah, that's a great one. But yeah.
I mean, some of those punchlines, the jokes of it just land better because there are literally two blank faces over there, right?
And you imagine the expression. Oh, you can just tell with the words.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It really is.
So, I mean, like any examples or, I mean, any thought that you have had with respect to that, like, have you felt that, like, at any point of time, like, oh, this person, like the folks that you were comparing yourself with in school, for example, oh, they draw far better than me and all I can do is this, like, little round girl with pigtails.
That's a good one. So I think for me, I tell you what, so negative to positive. So I used to always be like, I cannot put too much. I don't spend a lot of time on my illustration. And the thing is that I think I inherently don't want to also. So that makes me draw fast, which used to be a negative because I'm like, it's not refined. But it's so good now because I put out work so fast. Like I can put out like projects over the weekend. It's not a big deal for me. So it works to my advantage that way. But I think you can find, again, advantages and disadvantages for both. But that's a perfect example of like how something. But because of that, I'm like really fast at Photoshop because I just want it to be done faster. So more workout, more products. I mean, I have to run both sides anyway. So.
This might go back to the graphic novel idea, which I have given you for free. But might there be like a passion project where you actually do want to spend time, where you actually do want to say, okay, I'm just going to take 1 month off and just draw 5 things.
Okay.
And
this is such a good point. I mean, the graphic novel thing, don't worry. I have so many ideas. One specific one, which I do want to, it's one of my retirement plans, by the way. Part of the Excel sheet called retirement plans, by the way. Wow. Very, very long list.
Next question is going to be about how Excel sheet called retirement plan.
So what was I saying? Okay.
Retirement plan and the other ideas that you were having.
Spending longer times on it. So I think for me, it's not, so now I don't have to extend it too much because I don't feel like I want to, I also don't want to, or I feel like it'll negatively affect me if I do spend time out of a month away. I can't say no to a project that's coming.
Okay.
This might be a fear also.
Sure.
It's a freelance fear. I almost never say no to a project if they can fit the budget
and commercials, whatever.
I will do it. And the second is I can't take time away from the team because now again this
it's more than just you.
It is more than me. It's not it's their salaries and I have to work for them.
Yeah.
So I work in a weird way. So if I'm talking about the company also, no one knows this a lot. I mean, I tell everyone, but like it's not really widely known as that. I work for the company like I'm an artist. So I work on royalties for my products. So I don't work on a salary.
You're an employee of AliciaSouza.com.
I'm not even an employee. I'm a commissioned, I work as a licensed artist. So I only get royalties. So, but having said that, I still have to make sure that the whole company runs. So I don't take that lightly at all. So the problem is that I sacrifice a lot of passion, like a lot of passion projects, like a graphic novel. Oh my god, in a heartbeat I would. Like I want to take time off to go and learn clay, pottery. Just no way I'll have time. Again, part of the list.
Yeah.
We must offer her some discount to join the 6% club. To get her content project off the ground.
That's why we're doing these interviews, right? Lead gen exercises. I mean, to me, what is amazing is to a lot of people who followed your journey or watching, or even the two folks who are interviewing would assume like, oh wow, you have a brand under your own name, you must be able to take stuff whenever you want and all that. And you have reached that apex of individual creator, running a business out of all that and having a recognizable style and all that. But the truth of the matter is much more complicated than that, where now you have reached a point which has its own positives for sure, but a lot of headaches as well, including like when you think other salaries are being...
Absolutely. How, if I needed to stop today, or if something happened, God forbid, something happened, what's going to happen? I don't know. Every year I have to come up with a planner calendars, which is 100%.
Yeah.
Everything is drawn by me. So how would that work? Like, this is literally supporting the business. There's no way out. Like, there's no way I'd be like, this year I want to take a sabbatical. Absolutely not.
Wow.
Literally cannot. So I literally cannot think of an exit at all. I mean, one day I will, but like at this point, I cannot think of an exit. Or it has to have enough pillars to support the whole company that you know,
as long as you're enjoying drawing, then that's such a nice.
Yeah, I mean, the joy
in
is
which case
that,
this conversation will take a very drastic turn.
yeah, but there are things that I have to do which are not as fun anymore.
Of course,
like,
which is the case always, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you love, you're like the best chef and you make your favorite dish 100 times, you're not going to enjoy doing it. So.
Yeah, I've always wondered, when I see some bands, the audience is thrilled seeing them. But how many times are you going to play Master of Puppets?
And that too,
don't you get
also
bored?
with so much passion.
Yeah,
how do you do that? At least drawing, you can get away.
Yeah,
but I don't know how people do it.
So, this is the exact thing I was thinking. I was in Dublin the year before that, and the Eagles were performing. I was telling you about it. 50th year in concert.
Oh, wow.
Okay. They have been playing on stage for 50 years. They have, of course, not come out with new material in the longest time.
Yeah.
Which means they're playing the same thing. How do you do that? Like, just
was their delivery good?
Oh, it was excellent. It was
I'm thinking,
very
what
well
the
done.
difference is the songs are the same, but the delivery is different. So the order might change.
Maybe,
how much they dance, play riffs, I don't know. Changes up, and like the lighting and all those situations.
There are small things. Like I remember one band, Iron Maiden, their crew will leave like small Easter eggs on the.
That's adorable.
So I mean, I'm sure they do their own things to get out of the routine and all that. But this might end up becoming a completely different.
Also, you know what? I think also audience reaction changes.
Yes.
The whole and how you feel like performing.
Yeah. In fact, the guy who's handling sound for this very show right now, he was just talking about how we were watching one. So Deep Purple had come to Bangalore last year, and their reaction over here to an Indian crowd that hasn't seen them for 10, 15, whatever years, very different from Europe. They're like, whatever. This is just another local show of us. So I guess the audience reaction definitely does. Definitely does matter. Like, I don't know, again, with so many of our questions, I don't know where we got over here. So let's one of the things that we also wanted to ask you was, do you have like particular inspiration spaces that you go to? Like, do you have like a kopcha in your house or something where you go?
What?
A kopcha, like a little
Kopcha
corner.
is a little corner, your own corner.
I cannot believe I out Hindied somebody. Wow, this is the dream of a Kerala boy. Anyway, so
First, I thought they don't speak that much Indian.
I don't.
Having said that, every am I allowed to use Mallu? I don't even know anymore. Knows Hindi extremely well, so I don't know where this came from. Every including my husband.
Wow.
So
okay.
I don't know. This is like a misconception, I feel.
No, it's very much a conception only. Like, as somebody who studied engineering this all day. But anyway, please leave that out of the edit. Do you have like a corner? Do you have like a space? Do you have a cafe where you go? I mean, purely from an inspiration point of view, because I'd like to think that the creative process, whether it's professionally or whether it's just, a hobby, is kind of divided into, at least the way I think of it in my head, is there is inspiration, then there is some level inspiration / creation by itself, where you're trying to come up with the idea, be it for an illustration, an episode, whatever. Then there is a period of what I'd like to call is, say, R&D in some ways. Like, if it's a podcast episode, then okay, like in the creation part, I've decided, okay, I need to interview Alicia. Then the research part of it is, okay, let's go back and see the other interviews she's done, or what are the questions I can ask, so on and so forth. And then, of course, there is the execution, which is just hunkering down and doing it, right? In your case, that might be, I haven't, like for you, it might be, okay, let's come up with a planner for X, like for moms or something which you had done recently. That might be a creative thing. And then the research is, okay, what's all the stuff that's already out there? What do I need to put in? Interview moms, all that sort of thing. And then execution is just hunkering down and putting it out there on Photoshop or whatever, or Illustrator, whatever. So do you have, especially on the first part of it, the creation part of it, do you have spaces that you go to for that? Because I often think that the space around you, especially for the creation part of it, it needs to be a space that's conducive for your head to get into a certain kind of, zone thinking, whatever. Sometimes it could just be at the desk itself. Sometimes it might be with a hot cup of tea and Oman chips at the balcony. Sometimes it would be a cafe. Sometimes it might be just going to Coorg for the weekend or whatever. So yeah, just curious if you have spaces.
Okay. So the long and short of it is no. I'm literally at my
That's
desk.
a long answer for just a no. Long question for no.
The longer thing is that I don't think it was. So every time I had to draw, firstly, okay, if I went back and say uni days when I was actually a hermit, when I say hermit, I don't think people really understand how hermity I was. I was literally would not go out. And I'd sit at my desk and draw. And because of that, and also when you're on a student budget, no one's going to cafes. You're dreaming.
Sure.
You go to a library, but then I was like fascinated with libraries and only got books in it. So it's not a drawing space. It's like a exploring space.
Yeah.
So your desk is the only one. So from there, and then say coming to India, where you're literally just drawing at your desk, but you have to make stuff, and then you're broke Illustrator, so you're definitely not going out. So you're just drawing at your desk. So this becomes a habit that you're only drawing at your desk. So now, and also that time there was no way around it because I used to draw on paper, and then I used to scan. It's a very long, tedious process before. But now you have your iPad where you can literally finish like an entire illustration for print on your iPad. But having said that, I still do a chunk of it at my desk. Sometimes the inking might be done like a few meters away, but it's always at the desk, not at like in front of a TV. There would be very rare times where, because I can't sit still when I'm watching movies, so I'll maybe ink something out. But everything is done at my desk. Now coming to ideas or the ideation part, or the ideation usually happens before or sometimes at the desk itself. So there'll be an instant of like, okay, we're going to launch badges, and then I'll be like, okay, let me think of some ideas for badges. That happens at the desk. But there are many a times where I get an idea at a random time. So I'll be like on the road is a lot because Bangalore, and then you get an idea, I write it down, and when I go to my desk is when I execute it. So it's still a desk thing, but the ideas happen randomly. And then there's this consolidation of ideas which happens on my phone and Excel. But it just works for me. It used to be a book, and now it's like I still do have a book, but everything ultimately gets on a sheet because there's too much to write. I also have like some books also, by the way. But yeah, but it's ultimately just a desk thing. It's not as, again, romanticized where I'm like taking prints and in Europe and painting. It's just not like that. There are people who do have that joyous thing. It's just not my, I think, style of work also.
Sure. Yeah.
Indeed.
I want to deep dive to one bit you talked about, right? So a lot of your work, ones especially put out on social media, right? There's this beauty of observational insight, I see, right? That you're able to see take a slice of life kind of a thing and then convert it not into a single idea, but into an entire series of ideas. Like I think I remember you did one about just some things in India which you think are very adorable, fruit seller doing something and that kind of thing, right? So is this something which has always been with you? Is it a part of your personality as a person? Or is it something you have sort of picked up along your genesis as an artist?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm pretty sure I notice things always. Only when, say, no, I always notice. I always do it because I remember when I was very young, so this is school time, I used to write down ideas of, and I remember very clearly, they were t-shirts and pants of what lettering I would do on them, which is something people do till now. But they were like these like things that I noticed that were funny, but they were really funny on t-shirt. Never, I have to find, I don't think I have these books anymore, but they were so bad. They were very stupid. And many like dirty jokes, like because I was a teenager. But it was very stupid. But I think it was an always thing. But I think now there's a way to bring it out. For example, I think everyone has a story, but unless you're a writer, you may not like write it out, or like unless you have a way to bring it out. And I think that's the nice thing about like the arts or anything. I feel like everyone should be in the arts in some way or form, or have some sort of
creative outlet.
Yes, that is the perfect word. Words. Because I feel like everyone has some sort of thing they want to tell or show or something. And sometimes it's not always expressed perfectly in words. And sometimes it's other things, and for me it's drawing over everything else. But I do like writing also in a way, but definitely drawing. Yeah.
Interesting. Like I just like on that since you like that creative outlet phase, like I mean this is very different from all the other strands of observation that we were doing till now, which is in your experience of having done it yourself and possibly having mentored several others as well, and maybe having spoken to many regular folks as well who just like drawing, have you like seen any like therapeutic effects of, you know, just a regular person just picking up a piece of paper and just scribbling, even if their day job is something completely else and they don't want to become a whatever hashtag creator at the end of it? So yeah, talk to us, because that's because that's a foundational belief that we have, right?
I feel like that's happened so much. And I think firstly there are a lot of things. I think there was a dry spell where it was just work heavy, and the access to, say, getting to drawing or something was harder. So if you have to go buy a color pencils, you have to go to a shop. It's a much longer process as opposed to, say, ordering on Amazon. I know this is such a stupid little thing, nuance, but I think that one step changes a lot of things. The availability of like a gym, I'm bringing gym because like it is the changing face of time now. The gym next door, there's a bigger chance of you going as opposed to it being a fancy gym. It's just the way it is. Now everyone has an iPad, and now the fact that the pencil is there, it's just one step easier to, and the outcomes are so beautiful. So suddenly you feel like, you know, it's a little more available. Now, something like a notebook. So we come up with our planners. The number of people who show me how they decorate their planner is wildly different to someone who's got a plain planner and then you just meant to write. This one, I think, makes you want to draw. So I feel like those things have been happening, and a lot of people tell me these things where, you know, they've started drawing after years, they've never drawn, and it's just, and it always starts with, you know, I'm not good at drawing. And I'm like, this is not your end goal. You don't want to be like a commercial illustrator. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's like telling a child they're not good at dancing.
Sure.
There's no end goal with dancing. You're not going to go on like a Bollywood movie. You know, it's just dance. So like, I hate dancing, by the way. But
oh, thank you. I'm just feeling very identified right now. I hate dancing.
Oh my God, I hate it so much. Okay, I mean, I love watching people dance.
Yeah.
But I cannot do it to save my life. Anyway, so, and it's not even enjoyable. But, and I think, honestly, this is where it comes to, I think everyone has their mode of expression, and it could be, like, it can be dance, because some people just have that thing where they can express and dance, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But the same way someone will be like, I just don't feel like writing, and thinking that it's okay to force, I mean, you do need a little bit of like push to, say, write and draw even. It's just not a one size fits all with these things. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying again.
The therapeutic effects of creating, and you were talking about how people were using your
So then
canvas.
Now the whole coloring thing came in. Funnily enough, the first calendar that I ever did was called a coloring calendar. And it came out way before the coloring books came out, to the point where I wish I I wrote that wave, but I didn't. It was, I remember, okay, so one of the things that I love in every day is having a shower. But not like, oh, I'm just having a shower, I love it. I thrive when I have like hot water shower. I just love it beyond not, like, it's almost like sticker. But again, this is such a random, weird thing to talk about. Anyway. When I was doing that, I was like, oh, there's so many nice things every day. Let me just draw 365 things that make me happy every day. It was called the Grateful Calendar, a coloring grateful calendar. And for 365 days, they're small drawings. Right. And you're supposed to color it, and then you're supposed to think about it and be grateful for it. Okay, so it could be anything from, for me, it was like a hot shower. And I remember I asked people online. That time I had like Facebook pretty active. And people were giving me things like, you know, coffee, or like, you know, the sunrise, small things like that. Like I put in a picture of Richard Gere because that time he was my like. So there was not a color in though, but still. So that itself also is very therapeutic, right? So every time you, the coloring books now being available, then it becomes very therapeutic. And just again, access. Now it's available everywhere. Before, the coloring book will only be like a Barbie or like a Mickey Mouse coloring book that have kids, which is not as nice to have on your desk as an adult, or like a little more awkward, I think, for people. So just that availability, and many people find that also, and it's also becoming a more like a bigger thing to talk about it, right? Like and so it becomes more. Again, back to access. Back to
access. No, that's interesting. Like I've always wanted, to get the point of view of somebody who's practicing, I mean, in some sense, a hobby, but at a professional level, what they think about back when it was just a hobby and it just
Yes.
felt nice to doodle, which is why I started this entire thing with doodling at the back of
Yeah.
notebooks and stuff like that. That's a different kind of vibe by itself. I'm sure one day when you have a museum of your own, that we'll
my goodness.
hopefully get to see some of those PG-13
Oh my God, they're so
things of yours. That's
such
like the
bad jokes
like the
and,
restricted section of the
It's really,
like,
really
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Like even if I look at the college ones, some of them are like, what?
I mean, there's cringe and then there's whoa.
Yeah.
You know?
Mostly cringy woes, I think. Still, like
I think, I mean, when you're talking about access and democratizing and all that is a great way to speak about technology du jour, which is generative AI. I mean, there are lots of downsides to it, which we don't need to speak about right now. But in some sense, it is a continuation of how technology enables or democratizes creation, right? Like and any technology, you can look at it from that point of view, right? Keyboards in the the musical keyboards in the 1980s were vilified for, cutting out an entire orchestral section, but it also gave birth to, how many, goodness knows how many different kind of genres. So it seems to me like, as with any other technology, it's about not using it as a shortcut, but as a tool. And as somebody who is an illustrator, puts work out under a very recognizable style and all that, just generally what your thought. I don't think that's something you've drawn a comic on, which is what is. I mean, curious to get your thoughts on this wave of Gen AI that's been with us for about 1.5 years right now.
Yeah.
So
I think, AI has been around for ages.
I mean,
and
AI
it's
by
part
itself,
of,
obviously,
I can't say it's not useful because, Photoshop uses
It's
AI.
pretty much
too.
AI, even before all the plugins,
Yeah, of
right?
course, like half, like content film and all that, just like AI features. I can't say it's not useful. I think the biggest question here is not that AI is there, is that the stealing of, so that becomes like,
like if
becomes
I
the
say
biggest
draw this for
question
me in
of
the
it.
style of Alicia
Yeah.
Souza, then
So
I don't need to buy it from your website. Yeah, sure, I understand that is the problem.
That becomes the biggest hiccup here. And also like the whole question of like, how is this, I think drawing maps of how this can go. And I'm sure you all know about like the whole like, what was it? There was the, these, what's the word for it? Tests that were done that were talking about what's the worst that AI can do, and then they said you have to make the paperclip. I forgot what this was like a very popular test.
Correct. Oh, yes, yes.
Make the most paperclips you can make. Economical
You ask a machine to, your sole job is to make as many paperclips as possible, and the machines would eventually end up killing humans because
because they can use like the little bit of iron that's in your bones. They can use it to make paperclips. So ultimately makes the most paperclips, but it doesn't have any restrictions. So if you don't have restrictions, that's what's going to happen. And unfortunately now a lot of decisions are made only on commercial because half of the world is now run on commercial, not run by government, they're run by like companies, which is nuts. Again, I'm not like super into policy, I can't talk about like the nuances of this, but that would be my biggest worry about this, not anything else, and not the development of it, because that's great and we can use it for like human greatness as time goes by. But at this point, it's looking like...
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of issues to sort out, and I expect you to focus on the negative side of things.
Yeah.
But speak to us about the potential positives of it. For example, I'm seeing some artists using Gen AI in very interesting ways, right? Okay. Which is its own kind of art, which is like not necessarily like for example, using a keyboard in the 80s, not to do away with the horn section, but to create a completely new style of music, which you couldn't have done with any instrument before.
Okay.
Yeah. Similarly, in the space of Gen AI, I'm seeing like artists using Gen AI for completely new styles of art, which sure, you can possibly put pen to paper and do all that sort of thing, but this possibly help somebody who has no artistic skills at all but has the idea in their head, for example, right? So
that's more portraying as opposed to like an art form. But still, having said that, it is an entirely new, I can't call it art form. So this is very debated, and this is a debate I usually don't get into because it becomes so touchy depending on who the person is.
Correct,
For someone, it could be, I feel like I don't have very strong views on this because, again, I know people who use it like as art. I know people who hate it with a vengeance.
Yeah.
And I love them both, and I love what they do. Like, they both do amazing work. And I feel like now the AI art at this point is very recognizable as AI art.
Yeah,
which
of course.
But the sad thing is that there are people who create art that looks like AI art before AI was there. And that's the sad thing.
Okay.
So if you have like hyper-realistic kind of work, suddenly it's like hyper-realistic and surreal kind of work. Suddenly you've been, and that's like a really hard thing to do.
I'm sure.
And one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that you should not use it as it's fine, you use it as a tool, but you're removing skill. And now skill is, keywording is, I mean, I can't say it's a skill. It can, I mean, I guess it is a skill, but I wouldn't say as much a skill as say someone who's been painting and been able to paint realistically and stuff like that. I feel like that, I don't know. Again, very debatable, because there's a lot of skills that people had before that have become a bit very, very specific. Say you're doing a very realistic portrait. It's not as common now to make a living from it, maybe. Actually, maybe you can.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? There are so many ways of looking at it. One is that, one is just, if you are an expert in one field, or if you care so much about one particular thing. Again, I feel all of these technologies are just tools and not shortcuts. If you're using it as a shortcut, like I tell, my students, if your quickest path to B is to use Gen AI, right? You're going to get a very efficient B, but that's all you're going to get, because that's all the output is going to get you. It's not going to give you anything more interesting. If you want to go from a B to a B plus, at least you need to put in thought, at least in creating a better prompt, at least, right?
Yeah.
So I see these as tools. So it feels to me that somebody who is deeply passionate or knowledgeable even about a particular space, if they are able to use these tools in a more interesting way, or again, using it as a tool rather than a shortcut, then they're going to be able to extract so much more out of it. That is maybe like one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at Gen AI, I suppose, apart from it leading to completely new kinds of art forms by itself is, I mean, this is a weird way of thinking, but can we feed the machine in some way? Like, one of the great paradoxes to me in this day and age is how companies that are the companies that put AI tools together still need original human input in some way or the other. So one of the most almost like counterintuitive headlines I read in recent times was OpenAI hires science fiction writers and poets because to feed the machine, because only humans can think in that weird kind of way, which then takes it to the logical conclusion. And it goes back to the point that you were making, Alicia, a while back, which is, especially in an age of generative AI, where the quickest path to a B, or the merchandise equivalent is like, yeah, sure, a generic random mug that I need, right, whatever. Anything that has actual human input and is sold as being created by an actual human is going to be, I would like to think, even more valuable. Which then, the advice then for creators might actually be, don't try to go into that middle where you're just, that is going to be taken away, right? Trying to find a sort of space of your own, whether it's, say, the happy illustrations that you do, or say a more graphic style that, say, somebody else might. Try to carve out those things for yourself, because those are going to be very, very difficult for Gen AI to get right. And my favorite analogy to use with people always is, see, everybody craves for the human connection, and the best time to gauge this is when you speak to your bank's IVR, because you're like, I am willing to go to another tier. I'm willing to pay just to be able to get to
willing to wait till all the prompts are done so you can press 9
to press 9 to talk to a human. And I would like to think that would be all the more for, say, art and creative.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that's right. So one of my worries, I think, with AI for, say, someone who's just, especially now for kids who can use it for school and stuff. And I'll give you a good example, because I just thought of this, the mails I get now, okay? So I get a mail from this one young fellow, and the mail was beautifully written. And like, to the point where I'm like, this is a really beautiful mail. And it didn't strike me as being AI till like the next day. And I'm like, is this an AI? Because it was so nicely written.
A little too nicely written.
Yeah, it was a bit too nicely written. And to the point where I'd be like, oh, he should be, it was when I say nicely written, it was written beautifully. It was not written with
heart.
Yeah, there was no heart. It was like beautifully written. It wasn't right.
It had the
like, it was
right principles of communication to get your message across.
Yeah, literally. There's, you get the, is this written by AI? And it was like 100% written by AI. Okay. And anyway, the reply was sent and stuff like that. It was fine. And then the next day I get a mail from a girl who's literally written in many typos, trying just with like so much heart and an actual voice. So when you read it, you can hear her voice.
You can hear her voice, yeah.
That was way more endearing. And I spent more time reading and replying to that mail because I could get like a sense of this person as opposed to the other person who's copied this, who's written a bunch of keywords and gotten this mail which was beautifully written, but this is nothing more than text.
Yeah.
And this one had and I think that's what people are missing. And you're talking about human connection, that literally is it.
Yeah.
And for something like, say, even jobs now people are applying for, I think nothing is going to be worse than you AIing a beautiful mail and not having the ability to put that in words when you're talking.
Yeah.
Because I want to see the same person.
Yeah.
You can clean up stuff. 100%. I think AI is brilliant at that. I mean, use it for typos, whatever you need. I mean, that is what AI is, right? That's amazing. But if you lose the ability to use your voice, you're losing your voice. You're not going to be able to write your mails. You're not going to be able to write like a story. You won't be able to write a love letter. Bloody hell. So like, what is all that learning of language for? What is all that learning of like using a pen for? Like, and that's the part which I get scared about. And I don't want like schools to like unlearn all these things because it's an easier way to, to get over it. And I think it happens in like other fields, right? I'm trying to think of fields now. But
I think the overall point has been made.
And I think what you're referring to is losing our ability to learn new things.
Yeah.
Sharpen skills which come with time and the effort.
Exactly.
Right? And losing the joy of getting good at something over time.
Yeah.
And
That's very nice.
It takes time.
Again, this is something I think modern day is losing the ability to understand what time is. Time is not 6 months. Time is years. And I think people have no concept because we only see the overnight successes, which is nuts. No one's heard of exception and not the rule. Like, that should be taken always the case of they're the exception, not the rule. They're the exception, not the rule. They're exception. Like, I feel like I'm an exception, not the rule in so many cases because I have a certain personality with a certain style, with a certain life. Like so many things happen so you can't replicate my life to anyone else's life. It's the same with everybody. So I think people are like looking too much into certain things as opposed to understanding what they can deliver and then just delivering with the abilities they have and growing on that. I talk like I feel like I'm always like thinking of my son whenever I think of advice. No, because it's like what, like before it was just like too bad. But now I'm it's always like a horrifying, like, oh my God, what is gonna happen? Like all these things which when I remember I was watching this stupid thing on I think it was like a reality TV show kind of small snippet. And I'm like, how am I going to teach him that what they're that you're being so frivolous or you're being so you're jumping ship too quickly. How do you teach these things? Because I learned it, but I don't know how I learned it. You're backtracking, and some people just have a natural tendency to have to see that in him, or does he just learn it on his own? So many questions then happen, which is quite sad because now I'm just like always thinking about like poor son of mine is gonna get so much advice, it's gonna go.
How do you think it's about time we started bringing this conversation to a close. Otherwise, we'll end up talking for forever and deprive the world of what the next merchandise might be. But we have covered so much terrain, right? From your early days in Abu Dhabi to, the generosity of your parents in some sense, I must say, for the journey that you took, to all the happy accidents that happened around the way, to eventually your love-hate relationship with social media, to the success
I definitely love it more because of because it gave me everything.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Hate is more like
when I say hate,
scary.
is more the scared part in the beginning. So let's say hate, ex-hate, now love. Kind of. how do you think things, and now of course you put out reels very frequently and possibly, I guess, also create content specifically. I mean, more than the average person, let's put it that,
Really?
put that way.
Oh, I think I'm still like slow as hell.
I mean, okay, I mean, with the whole quality per reel ratio is what I'm talking about, not necessarily a sheer number of output. But anyway, that's not the
Also,
point.
content creation is not a full-time job.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah, she is a contracted employee after all. No, the question I wanted to ask was, how different would this entire journey have been? Suppose you were to start in 2024 and not say 1995, 6 or so. Like, the reason I ask is I'm sure many students or young folks come to you and say, hey, I draw well, I got A+ in my this thing, and now how can I become a successful, like, what's the term you used? Commercial merchandiser, illustrator, like yourself.
That's my designation.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I don't say anything beyond commercial illustrator.
Yeah, I mean, like, so how different? I know, of course, it will be very different in terms of, there's so many variables, but if you were to start today with the landscape of today, and of course you can pick Abu Dhabi if you like, you can pick Bangalore if you like, you can pick Melbourne if you like, wherever, but how different would things have been?
Great question. I think, okay, so with the knowledge that I have, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Okay. I went for, I met a few students relatively recently, as in this year, when I say relatively recently. And I think there's always a fear about this whole getting out and becoming big really quickly.
Yeah.
And this is the one thing I would change. Again, I keep talking about time. And I would make sure that I would obviously have pressure. It's just inevitable, of course. But I'll still try to do this whole consistency over time. Two things. One thing is building up skill. And I talk about, say, your drawing skill is one, but how good are you at Photoshop? And, how fast are you if you're going to create something? Or do you have, a variety of being... a good example is, and especially being in... I think as a freelancer in general, your skills have to be developing. It's so weird because I was telling my sister that I'm doing a course and she's like, you do courses? And I'm like, yeah, it's like, I never thought about it. I'm like, but you have to be advancing all the time. You have to be reading about things and you'll be learning all the time, right? So giving each thing a chance. So I was doing a Procreate design, dreams thing. Now it's not for me. It's I'm not going to have that time, but I'm going, now you're talking about reels. I don't watch videos, by the way, at all. I just don't watch videos. So I have nothing to bank, or put any ideas in terms of how do I do this reel, because I don't watch reels. So, but having said that, because this is the digital landscape at this time, I have to invest time to do it. So I feel like there's some give and takes where you have to try to invest your time in things and try to learn to love it, if not love it entirely, or make it work for you. So I'm still drawing a lot more if I'm doing a video. So coming back to the main thing is that I would spend the time, give enough time for it, experiment and learn new things. I think now something that I don't do as much because I don't have time is this whole collaborate thing as much. But you can do that a lot more easily now because you can reach out to brands before brands were not online as much. They don't respond as quickly.
Not to mention collaborate with other artists also.
Other artists, other
creators
other people
from other fields.
Exactly. Creators, that's a big one. And you can make things more easily. When I was manufacturing products, the only thing that were available were print products, that's notebooks and mugs and badges, because we had the badge maker, we used to make it. But now I can firstly print a t-shirt on demand. I can print the number of print objects that are miles more. And so those things suddenly are more available to you. So you can experiment and do so much more. Suddenly also being able to send things, say we're talking about sending things abroad and stuff like that, that is actually a little more available. And also being able to work with other markets is more available. So I feel like that is something I would explore more. But being I think really realistic about, not banging on the fact that I'm going to put my stuff out and everyone's going to buy it. Everyone's going to love it. Because that seems to be a trajectory for many artists where they're their main aim is just to run the online store. And I'm like, how are people going to buy? You're not going to get 30,000 people to buy your stuff and be able to pay rent. It's not going to happen. You have to have this big, you're going to get so many people to buy it. For that, though, so many people have to follow you. Then you take a percentage. So you take 10% of the people are going to buy. Sorry, 10% are going to see your post now.
Yeah.
From
Organic
that,
is dead.
So 10% of that 10% is going to go and buy your things. Now, from that, is that going to pay your rent?
Yeah.
No, it's just going to about be marketing for you. What is still your
Wow.
game plan. It is so it's
And it's very
sad that
sobering
it's
when
so-
you put it in.
it is a very hard field. I think the creative field is very hard, but it is the most if people do it and they do it like they
Yeah.
and they get it, like they do it over time, I've never seen anyone be like unhappy, like not go to
Yeah.
bed knowing that it's the thing they have to do.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else, okay, so we're in Bangalore. I meet so many people. I mean, I think one of the joys of being in Bangalore is, and me not going to an art school really, I don't really know too many illustrators and people in the art field as I know techies. I know a lot of people in tech. And I've known like so many startup founders. My housemate was a startup founder, so I've seen her go through a journey. No one is as happy as people in the creative field. If they're doing it for a living and they're doing it like with passion and over time. There's just no one else.
amazing,
And no one like comes out of the creative field saying, I need to, I need some break, because you take a break and they do the same damn thing because it's the fucking best. So it's only
Yeah, I can see why that sabbatical is not on your radar.
sabbatical. It's called retirement plan of me not making products, making other type of products.
I mean, yeah, I think there are two large pieces of advice for budding creators that I'm hearing from you. One is everyone knows about the whole time thing that you need to invest, but I think you put it in two different contexts in this conversation. One was you didn't want your work to be everywhere, which I understand is more from a personal, okay, I don't want to, be commercial art kind of
Sorry,
thing.
no. When I say I don't want it to be everywhere, I don't want. My aim is never to be like.
Of course.
No, I feel like the business changes then, and I don't want
Yeah.
that. It's not that if my stuff is like all over the world, I'll be happy. But I don't want to do a business because I know then the mindset has to change to like how to make the quickest buck, because it has to run like 50 stores.
Your thing, that's the thing, right?
business
You have built this in, and for a young person who might be like, "Oh, I've just put out a nice drawing. Oh, it'll be amazing to be featured everywhere," without thinking through the almost like the steps that are kind of needed to get there. So I suppose this is something that comes with experience, right? And the second thing that you said, I thought was kind of really nice, which is like, you didn't want to grow too fast, too quickly. It's almost like you need to have earned the level of fame that you have achieved. Like, if you are going to be X famous, then you need to have you need to have a certain level of skill or something in order to get there. Anyway, that whole time and, that thing is one. And the second takeaway that I'm going to take from that creator should have is learn how to use spreadsheets, because clearly you organize your life through that.
Also, it comes with the fact that if you've not realized by now, with me asking, what was the question again? I have a goldfish memory. Also, by the way, I think this goes in hand in hand with the whole being happy thing, because I genuinely forget bad things that happen instantly, and everything just comes as like things that have happened. But yeah, a lot. So I forget everything. So because of that, by the way, that's how I got into planning, because I carry a planner around. I have to write down. I'll forget everything. Everything is written down. Oh, it's not happening. There's no way. I will not be cutting my nails if it's not written down. Like, there's no way I'm going to forget. I'm going to remember. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's bad. It's not good. But it makes sure everything else is online, like in order. It just,
Again, you have turned a negative into not just a positive, but also a merchandise line. So,
but there's one thing I'm taking away from actually both the points you made, is that somewhere you're talking about doing what you're doing sustainably for yourself as a human being. Because I think where you were saying that you don't want your business to become too big is because you feel that at some point you will not be able to sustain the attention or the passion or the interest you have towards it. And then it will just become everything is numbers on an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
And the joy of...
Let me just say that this is a very contrarian view in the city that we're recording this right now, by the way.
But, okay, having said that is exactly one of the things. So one of the things was that my name is on these products. I have to draw everything. And there is a point where you can switch and you can be like, it's a brand now and I can get anyone to draw it.
Yeah.
And that's when you suddenly turn into, it's technically is a brand per se, but it's still me.
Yeah.
It's literally me. So I have to invest my time to do all the drawings. There's not a single drawing that I've not done. But that's not going to happen if it's like a store that's everywhere. It's just physically not possible for them to get like, say, 100 drawings a day. It's not possible. Having said that, I feel like I can bring a lot of drawings. But but I feel like the quality of maybe the ideas will change,
Sure,
because then it's
yeah.
drawings that are coming out and not like so good ideas. So I mean, you mix and match.
And I think it goes back to the XKCD point, right? That you can be just drawing stick figures, but what you say with it is what matters. And the moment you let that go, then it's very hard to replicate that kind of thinking, because you are you and nobody else can be
absolutely. Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah, I
especially
think that's a
designy kind of
good
ones.
place to end this. Alicia, thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been so nice.
Yeah, this is like these are some questions I've always wanted to ask you. But I'm glad we managed to do it in this setting. I have been hounding you for a while
I've been like, please come to Bangalore every second.
No, so I also did want to say the last time we met, you did say when you come to Bangalore next, you better meet me. And
Yes, this is
so I
true.
did.
This is true. And I ran away so quickly because I had to go back for Ollie.
Yeah.
I have a very strict schedule. That's
So
pretty,
I kept my end of the bargain, but
Yeah,
jokes apart,
I'm so glad.
thank you so much for doing this.
this is
When we
pleasure,
decided
really.
when we decided to do this, you were easily one of the first names that we
sweet.
wanted to speak to, and thank you so much for making the time to
thank
do
you so
this,
much.
and good luck with everything that you might be launching. And I am not going to give up hope that someday you're going to give us like
graphic novel?
a graphic novel, and that
Okay,
too.
wait, I
sort of
have a
like,
good question. Okay, before we wrap up.
we've never
Your
done this
favorite graphic novel?
I'm not too much of a graphics novel
What the way
person.
you're
so,
talking about?
so-
I thought you were like a
Oh no,
hardcore
I
graphic
just wanted to see like something really dark drawn by you. But if you're going to push me to it, I'm not sure if it counts as graphic novels. But I'm a big fan of the Asterisk series.
Oh, comic. Yeah.
Counts, right?
Yeah.
Slightly more intelligent than your Archie, so I would count them as graphic novels. Sure.
I remember. Okay, one quick question. Sorry, again. You answer first.
So for me, this is a book called Bimayana. It's
Okay.
on Dr. Ambedkar's life. And it's been done by Goan tribal artists in their art form.
Wow.
Go on.
Goan, yeah. And for example, most graphic novels will follow, or comics at least will follow the box format.
Yeah.
Right? They absolutely have nothing like
Oh
that.
wow.
So they will have one panel, if I may call it, over 2 pages.
Oh, that's
Oh,
so cool.
wow. Okay.
Right, and it is the first time I got my hands on it. It completely blew my mind, because I have not seen nothing like this before, and this is a part of our country's heritage, and I genuinely felt ashamed at that point.
That sounds amazing.
Okay, so
And
what I want to
the
do is,
fact that
we are going to send it to you.
I will shamelessly accept.
Thank you so much. So yeah, that's my favorite graphic novel.
Oh, okay. That sounds amazing. By the way, not all comics are
Follow-up
dark.
question.
Oh,
of
yeah,
course, they're not dark. You had another
no, you were
follow-up
saying-
question for us.
Yeah, I did have a follow-up question. and I
We forgot it. We'll do it.
By the way, when I have conversation, I usually write things.
Write
I
things down,
usually
yeah.
forget. So meetings are full of like scribbles.
Yeah,
Wait,
but if
I'm gonna forget. Okay, after this wraps up, I'm sure.
It'll
Very
come to you.
embarrassing. Yeah, something about graphic novels. I don't know.
I wonder how we're going to treat this in the
I
edit,
remember.
but yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
So when we were young, I remember my brother used to read. By the way, Archies, the cutest ones are little Archies.
Little Archie. Yes.
Best. So
Yes,
cute,
yes.
those faces. Anyway, so I remember my brother reading it and like howling laughing. And I read and there was literally nothing more than you'll get a smile
chuckle,
at the
sure, yeah.
most. I don't even know a chuckle. It's really cute and I love it. But I don't know. It's like you don't laugh. Oh, maybe it's just me. I don't laugh. Don't ask. This is like does everyone laugh or is it just me?
Laugh
On
at Archie.
Yeah,
or-
like at the comic book, do you read and you're like, or like, is it
I mean,
just-
I can't remember a time that has happened for Archie. I think Archie is more just like comfort food in some sense.
It is
with
just like
respect
the
to
thing
food,
you
but
keep reading.
I
Yeah,
have
remember.
howled with, say, Asterix or something of that sort, where the puns just land or something like that. But yeah, not Archie. Yeah.
I never read or Archie or any
What?
of these
Wow.
comics growing up.
I didn't even know anyone
Oh,
did
come
read.
to small town India, bro. It's a different life.
I thought Archie's was like a...
No. So I grew up reading the more Chacha Chaudhary universe of comics.
No, that is
Right? And I remember the one particular panel which is stuck in my head. There's a conversation happening between Chacha Chaudhary and Sabu and they are talking as if they are Aristotle and Plato.
Okay.
Okay. And I was like, what is happening? Because first of all, I had to look up who Aristotle and Plato were. Right? And then I had to like, wait, what is happening in this comic?
That is very intense is it for children?
Yeah, it was very
that is
intense.
amazing. I kind of love that. Because
Yeah,
then it
and I
gets
was
children
like, why are they talking about life and stuff like that?
That's
It's like
amazing.
too
Okay, I
much.
feel like I need to
So
get this.
I cracked up when I discovered that panel at a much later age again. And that's when I really started howling because I'm like, oh my God, what was I reading at that point?
That
in
is
time?
amazing though. I love... Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no such profound story to say.
Same,
but,
same.
yeah.
We used to read Tinkle when we went to India only.
Tinkles,
And that was pretty. Also, I drew for Tinkles for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
I had my own page for a little bit, but it was like
wow.
facts. It's called Factually. I don't know why I
Which
named it.
is one by
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I just thought, yeah, I just thought it was amazing for a few years, and then that's it. But yeah, I was very proud of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll try to dig some out from the.
No, it's very
Okay.
bad drawings.
Oh,
I feel like when I look back, I'm like,
Oh,
oh.
I think one thing we've missed out talking about is how embracing cringe is very important.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is true. I mean, I love when others say that. I'll be like, hell no, don't say that about your work. But then when I'm doing, I'm like, oh, like, you know.
I think it's
But I
okay if you
that's
go
okay.
look back at your previous fucking cringe, you're like, yeah, I was bad, man.
No, but that's good
Yeah.
because you'd be
You
like,
see
oh my
how
god,
much
now
you've
it's
come.
not as bad. Like,
Yeah,
that's
you can
good.
see how much you've come.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I feel bad, however, when this happens to musicians because they literally have to, like, I go back and some horny rock bands from the 80s. They are now 70 years old and they still need to perform material.
Oh,
and
yeah. That would
White
be...
Snake, I'm looking at you. And they have to say, anyway. I think this.
Sorry, one last thing. We're talking about cringe, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, I remember we were having a conversation about AI, oddly enough, with a fellow. I just met him. He's very sweet, very nice guy. And he was talking about what AI, and he works with AI. And he's like, what's going to do is going to cut out all the bad designers. Okay. And I don't know why it didn't sit right, but I couldn't debate it until I went home. And that phrase kept going in my head. And how we're talking about this process of getting from good to bad.
Yeah.
From bad, sorry, I can't even say bad. Unpolished.
Beginner to-
Yeah, beginner to thing, okay? Now when we talk, and the only way, we were talking about children before that. And they were talking about how creative their child is and stuff like that. And this is a child, so inevitably the art is like a child's art. But you would never tell a child, this is shit, and you're going to be culled out because you're not there yet. You let it develop for however long. But then for the minute you touch like your 20s, you're suddenly like supposed to be like 30, or like you're in your teenager and you're supposed to be like 30 years old, and you're not having this middle ground, which is why I mean years. And suddenly you're culling these people out because they're not AI. Like they can't develop in like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So I felt like that was a really, I wish I had made that comparison because it really hits home for parents, because you have you have an emotional connect to someone who's not good, to someone who's not writing well, who's not even writing and drawing or dancing for that matter, but it's still the best thing in the world for you. But over time, it might be for the best thing in the world for everyone else or for an audience. Who
knows what people are missing out on.
Yeah, and it's not going to create if you don't spend that time. And I feel like there should be a time when people are learning when they should not be looking at stuff. Like they should have only very limited amount of stuff. Like it should be hard to get, say, a book. You have to have one good book that you can refer to, and the rest is just you.
It's just you.
Oh, like and that's what it was before. I feel like we came at a great time. When it was still a lot more manual, and to see an image was
learn from analog and put stuff out on digital. I think it's a great generation.
I had a blogger and you had to put stuff out and hope someone sees your stuff. You know, that was great. Because you're not worried about it being the best. Because when you put stuff out on a blog, sorry I'm extending this so long, but you put something out on a blog and you're like, this is the best I did today. And then you don't really go to other blogs because it's a full process. You have to type in and stuff like that. But now you put something out on Instagram and the next thing that comes suggested is like the best artwork by someone. It doesn't feel that great. And that's the same. Like, I mean, imagine like making food at home and suddenly like, I mean, technically I guess that's there, but I think art is the one that's getting hit the hardest, which is the saddest thing. And maybe not writing as much, but writing, what is suffering is the fact that everyone's attention span is going so slow that all writing is condensed to the shortest form, shortest hand, and in such minuscule texts that it's just a different format of writing altogether, and longer formats are becoming harder, and like being a writer is not a day job, and it's just becoming that's another sad demise of hopefully not demise of the character. It's become
not
a niche.
Niche, but I think it's interesting, right? I do think that this cycle is going to play out in some way because, I always think in an optimistic way, like we live in an age of contrast, right? Like while there are short attention spans, but at the same time, there are people who are going to see this video through to the end, right? There you go. And if not this, there are, I mean, the best podcasts in the world, or at least the most popular podcasts in the world, frequently tip 3 hours, 4 hours. Like
Those are the only ones to listen to, by the way.
yeah,
It has
exactly.
to be
Right.
long
So
format,
people
otherwise,
do people do crave depth.
You're right, and movies
right?
as well.
Yeah,
I think
and
going longer
and
as well.
I mean, we
books-
binge watch stuff because we crave depth,
Yeah,
right?
and-
Why other way would you binge watch if you didn't have attention
books
span?
books still do sell. Writers, I mean, there is like, it's almost like if you are going to pick up a book, then you are really invested in it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, I mean, sort of like an optimistic way of looking
Yeah,
at what
no,
you just
that's
said,
true,
which is I mean, one way of thinking about the short attention span thing is just that there's so much content out there, you kind of need to have a good filter first, and then you consciously pick up the 5 things that you want to go deep into,
Yeah.
and then buy or whatever the long form version of that,
Yeah,
be it a podcast, be it a book, be it spend time going through the creator's Instagram handle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think depth ultimately does matter. And
But no, what you said is right. And also, I think one good thing, even from short formats, is that it takes, the way you said it was
Yeah.
perfect, like takes it to a longer format.
Yeah.
Like, I've bumped
It's
across
an ad
small
for
things. Small
and I'm
things
sure a
on
lot of people have
Instagram
discovered
which-
you that way as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, I don't have long format anything, but
I mean, this is
but-
what's stopping you.
yeah.
Like a
Well, this is your long format content.
this is me blabbering, which is very easy
this
to
is
get
a
at
great,
this point, by the
Alicia
way.
blabbers. I think that's a
Oh my
great,
god, I have, because I'm at home the whole time in front of my desk, I've discovered that there's a new Alicia who just loves chatting a lot. So I'm the person who sends very long voice note. Okay, I am so sorry. It's like some people get like PTSD from hearing that I'm a voice note sender, but a very long voice note sender. So many. Oh, I think I sent to you. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Yeah.
But it was not so long. This was like a minute or two. But
first
even
when I
then,
got a-
better than messaging. I hate messaging.
yeah, don't
Sorry.
worry about
Oh
it.
my
Don't
god,
worry
you're not
about
even
it.
responding to
Don't worry about it.
I mean, he sends long enough voice notes
Do you
once in a
send
while.
voice notes?
Yeah,
You
he
did
sends-
send a
I'm a
you
voice
did-
note
You
person.
did send a voice note.
I'm a voice
Okay.
note person.
Okay,
Yeah.
feel seen. Okay.
I feel we should bring this to a close
Yeah,
because
okay,
our
sorry,
next
done,
guest
yeah.
is actually literally outside.
Oh
so we
my
should-
goodness gracious, okay.
That's okay. Alicia, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
for
Oh, it
coming
was
over.
so lovely being here. Thank you.